Welcome to the SurfersPoint Phase 2 public meeting this evening. As we get started here, I want to welcome up the mayor, Joe Schrader, to kind of kick us off.
I promise I'll be brief. Where's Kara at? So Kara represents the Conservancy, which gave us the $16 million grant. So thank you so much. So we talked a little bit about, why and all that. So I was here, where's Christy at? So about a year ago, and there were at least 6 PhDs, and they were studying phase 1. And they were studying it and studying it and studying it, and it was because it's probably the most successful beach erosion plan on the west coast of the United States. It is now the model about how you're supposed to do it. So I am really excited about phase 2. And I don't have a PhD, and I'll let somebody come up who probably will explain it and really knows about why we're here and how much we can really enjoy the beach for now and in the future. Thank you.
Before we start, I want to ask if anyone would like interpretation services. We have Yvonne here in the back. We've got headsets. No? All right, we'll start then. Also, has everyone that wants to participate in the voting been able to scan the QR code? It's not a huge deal. We've got voting in the back, and we've got a survey online as well, but it's hopefully going to be a fun, interactive thing to do while we're presenting. So I'll give everyone a second. Do I? It'll come back, right? Yeah, we've got another one. Okay. So our agenda for this evening is to introduce PCLD. Eric and I are here from PCLD, along with Mike and Chris in the back. They're going to be helping with the in-person voting boards. We're going to get into a project introduction, talk about our stakeholders, go through the community engagement boards that we have back there and the voting opportunities. We'll have a Q&A. And then breakout sessions. So we have a pretty simple purpose for tonight's meeting, or I guess 3 ones, to inform everyone about this project, which the mayor did a great job of explaining how impactful it's going to be. Gather feedback. Again, we have 3 ways of gathering feedback: the live in-person voting, the voting boards in the back when we're done, and then a survey handout that's going to go out. And then we're going to hear from you guys about your preferred art types for the location. Okay. Your first vote should be up on your screen. You can tell us how familiar you are with this project just to kick us off.
A bunch of experts in it.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah.
Great. You'll also notice on your phone, if you want to, there's a Q&A at the bottom. At any time in the presentation, if you want to leave a question, we'll be able to open up and read those later too. So if you have a question at that moment.
I see we already have 4, I think, down there, so great. I guess, yeah, we'll keep it at 33. Okay, so that's a way better number than I was expecting. You guys do know a lot. And then where does everyone currently live, just in terms of Ventura, in Ventura County, or outside of Ventura County? Great. I'll wait till we get to 33 again. I think that's our number. Okay. Oh, no, we got more. 38. Maybe we'll hit 40. Okay, so mostly Ventura residents, and if not, then mostly Ventura County. And then lastly, what is your age range?
Sure. It's anonymous.
Nice. Well, 43.
And Tori mentioned that you guys will also get a chance to participate in our online survey that's now live after the event. So you guys get to vote twice just by coming tonight. So make your votes count. But every question that we ask here tonight is also being asked in that survey. So.
Okay, 44. Great. All right, so a little bit about us. PCLD is a Ventura-based landscape architecture firm. We've been here for over 40 years. We specialize in community-focused public serving projects. And not only are we on the landscape architecture side of things, but here tonight we're doing the community engagement side of things, which both heavily relate to our passion for public spaces and cultural and natural resources. Some local projects that we've been fortunate enough to be a part of are Kellogg Park and Arroyo Verde Park. And then currently in construction, we have part of the Ventura River Trail and also hopefully Marina Park soon. All right, I'll let Eric take over.
Thanks, Tori. My name is Eric. Give you guys a little brief introduction by the judge of the poll. A lot of you guys know what's going on already, so I won't spend too much time with the details here. But one of the kind of premises of this whole project when we start tonight is at its core, it is, as Joe mentioned, it is a coastal resilience project. So we're going to be talking about public art and a lot of fun, fancy things here. That is, as I'll show you in later, that is the cherry on top of this project. The cupcake of that is the coastal resilience, the engineering, the managed retreat proportion of the project. And so with that, we have, the reason we're all here tonight is what you all see down there every day. Everyone's been seeing it in the last couple of years with the storms. The damage has gotten worse. We're losing more and more. And with climate change, we're likely to continue to lose more and more. As Joe mentioned, this is a visionary project. Not many jurisdictions have the ability or the foresight to really work to pull away from the ocean, knowing that that's an eventuality. And so I'm going to flash through these just to kind of give you, this is meant to paint a historical picture of how we in Ventura have responded to the coastline and how the coastline has responded to us. So there's some historic aerials here showing as far back as 1929, and I'm going to go through these pretty quickly, but as you do it, watch the coordination of the black lines and how the black and the blue line and how close together they get over time here. I wish it flashed, sorry. Something to note here is that in the 60s, a lot of beach hardening was happening at the promenade area here. I love this one because this shows the power of Mother Nature. This was our historical flood of record in 1969, and you can see the deposits from the river that carved out the new coastline then. And, we skipped a few 4 years here. This is when a lot of the development, the fairgrounds started pushing in and some of the coastal erosion. The black and blue lines start getting really close together in these. And that's both erosion from the ocean, but also our practices pushing towards the ocean. Some of these older, we have better aerial photos from like the 30s than we did in the 80s or 90s. If you're ever looking at historical photos, 80s and 90s historical aerial photos are terrible. So apologies for the blurry images. This looks like it was 1929, right? In 2013, this was the construction of phase 1. Another kind of key underpinning of tonight is that the SurfersPoint phase 2 is not a new project. It is the same project. It is just phase 2. We didn't have the money to build it all the first time, so we had to cut it in half, and now we're finishing the job. And so here we are today, seeing the first, I think one of the big things is seeing the black line on the left there and how we first pulled away. You can see the separation that we gained from the beach in phase 1. And these are the improvements that we see there today. A lot of, again, the piece of this project is a continuation of a lot of those improvements in their same language, their same feel. So talking about the multi-use path, the sand barrier wall, some of the signage, some of the amenities, and some of those pieces. The boardwalk that's there today was, you can first see it, it was probably constructed in 2014. So this is where we're at as of a couple years ago, and with the proposed development, you can see the difference between the black line and the blue line. So this is where we're going. So this is where it is right now, and with the proposed plan where we're pulling back to. And again, you see a lot of space in between those lines gained here, pulling back several hundred feet, and the continuation of the managed retreat project. This is just a graphic rendering that was done in 2019. It's not quite, everything in it is pretty accurate, but it's not quite the plan. A few little things tweaked along the way, but it is pretty much a good representation of what it will look like. And our next exercise here. So this is more of a few short words. This is a word cloud, so just would love to hear you. You can type actually in as, I think we're giving up to 3 responses. So what is your primary reason? Do you go to walk? Do you go to surf? Do you go bird watching or nature, social gatherings, whatever? You type it in. If you see something somebody else responded to, you can copy. One of the things underpinning a lot of the exercises we're doing, and we'll get into this tonight, is we're asking some very specific questions about public art, which is a key component of this project. And a lot of your answers are going to help us inform an RFP that will drive a public art process. So we want to hear from you, the community, about what you want to see at SurfersPoint, how you use SurfersPoint, because ultimately those responses help us tell an artist what the art, the amenities, those things at SurfersPoint should be. We'll give it another 30 seconds. Yep. Lots of surfing, lots of walk.
The bigger the print, the more.
Yep, the bigger the print, the more people have responded. So, yep, the bigger those are. Lots of word clouds can understand the difference between walking and walk and can kind of jumble. This one's not quite that smart. So you can see walk is in there and walking. It's not AI empowered yet. Wonderful. All right, so a little bit about the proposed Phase 2 improvements. We already talked a lot about this. On the left, we kind of see remove the remainder of existing parked area, some of the, construct new parking, paving existing Phase 1 beach parking lot, which is currently gravel, constructing a new multi-use path that joins the promenade and the Phase 1 along there, so it'll be a better pedestrian bicycle connection. The new sand dunes, new landscaping irrigation, new fencing in between the public part and the fairgrounds, and new lighting and amenities. There'll be new, parking lot lights as well as drainage improvements. So a big part of the reason we're here tonight is that little sliver in the terms of this $16.2 million grant, that $300,000 that is being allocated to public art. And that represents a really significant opportunity in this project that not all projects have. And I like to think of it also, it's not only just a significant opportunity, it's a significant opportunity in a significant location. SurfersPoint means a lot to a lot of people. It is a highly visible location, visited by residents, visitors alike. To have that kind of funding for a public art opportunity is rare. And so think about that as you kind of enjoy this tonight. We have an opportunity to do something. Doesn't necessarily mean we should. Your opinion might be that we don't. That's open too, but just think about that as a unique opportunity that's faced with you this evening. A little bit about where the project came from. Again, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but where we are today, the grant was awarded here just last year. The final design has been completed for a couple years and has its full permits. So the project is going to construction, and we'll get into kind of an analogy as I teased a little bit earlier about what we can impact in the design of the project, but it's going to construction this fall. There's a very short time period when this project has to be built. At this point, I want to use this slide to offer up opportunities for our few. We've been working, this isn't a joint city project, this is a partnership project with the fairgrounds and several agencies, Surfrider Foundation. So I know a few of you are in the room tonight. I'd love for you to stand up and introduce yourselves. If you are a stakeholder that has been helping with this process. I know I'll start over there because I see Dan.
Dan, I'm the Chair Fair Board. Guillermo Ceja, Vice President of the Fair Board.
Doug Culture on the board at Beacon and on the City Council.
Kathy Bremer, Friends of Ventura River.
I know Paul's in here.
Paul Jenkins, Surfrider Foundation.
Thank you. Anybody else? It's your chance. All right. So the main reason we're here tonight, and Tori's going to kick into this, is to give you an opportunity to engage with some of these public art and amenity ideas. And so I'll let Tori kind of run. Is it here? Or, oh, I've got a couple more slides. Apologies. A little bit about the timeline going forward. So here we are tonight in May. The project is going out to bid very soon. This month, early June. Will be awarded construction during the late spring, early summer, with a very short construction time period that is a condition of the project by the coastal to happen this fall and over the winter, which is going to be hard both to get there. I know the engineering and the city team is working really hard to make sure we can get to that date, and then also it will be hard to do in that date because, as you know, our winters are challenging, but there are reasons that the project needs to be constructed in that time frame. So I mentioned the analogy earlier. This is my lovely graphic here. Really what we're here tonight is that opportunity. We can influence the icing a little bit and the taste or whatever kind of icing we want on this cupcake. But as I mentioned the beginning of this, things that are set in stone are the engineering, the science scope. This is a coastal resilience project. It's designed, it's permitted with science behind it. It also has the coastal access, the parking, the coastal trail. All of those have been permitted with specific work with the Coastal Commission, with permitting agencies. But there is this $300,000 in public art and some of the amenities that happen on here that we have an opportunity to play a role in how this project looks and functions going forward. So with that, I will hand it over to Tori.
All right, so as Eric talked about, we have some opportunities for public art, and when we were kind of brainstorming, we came up with 3 categories: amenities, ground plane, and other. Under amenities, we have possible street furniture, bike racks, bike lockers. For ground plane, we have ability to maybe affect the crosswalks a little bit, decorative pavers, or decorative concrete. And then in terms of other, there's going to be a new entry kiosk, so there could be a mosaic on that. Some artistic fence panels, or some icon art. Okay, so first with street furniture, we just have an opportunity if people want to hang out and enjoy the space more, create a sense of place with loungers or chairs, tables, anything like that. So this would probably mostly be located in this kind of central hub area around the, I'm sure most of you guys are familiar, as you said at the beginning, the existing roundabout in the path, not the roundabout for cars. But that's kind of the area that we have the most space for furniture. All right, for bike racks or bike lockers, this is an opportunity to take something that's typically pretty utilitarian and basic and throw a little bit of art into it, whether that's a sculpture or paint, something like that. And then these can be located, obviously, throughout the project. And there are some existing on phase 1. That's a good example of just a simple bike rack that we could do something fun with in this phase. For the crosswalks, there is an opportunity for enhanced pedestrian safety and enhanced pedestrian experience with pavers or stamped asphalt, something like that. Just have to keep into consideration the longevity of it and the possible maintenance associated. So there's actually a fair amount of crosswalks on this project, 7 it looks like. So this could potentially be a pretty impactful piece if we decide to repeat something along all 7 crosswalks. I mentioned the roundabouts for cars earlier. Although they will not be landscaped or planted at all to allow for turn radiuses for trucks and trailers, there's an opportunity for decorative pavers or something similar, again, along the ground plane. And there's the location of the 2 roundabouts. As well, on the ground plane, we have decorative concrete options, and this would be patterns created through texture and a little bit probably more subtle, a little more subtle option in terms of all the art pieces that we're talking about. And these would probably be located at key intersections, again, right outside of those roundabouts and at popular entrances to the trail. We have the kiosks, as I was talking about. It is currently specified to be stone veneer that could be replaced with a mosaic of some type. And there's the location of the kiosk. As Eric mentioned, there's going to be a fence running along the fairgrounds property in between that and the parking lot. So there's an opportunity, especially in the places where the fence is really highly visible, to create, something a little bit more nuanced than, again, a basic utilitarian fence. And these are the areas that we've identified that might be a good spot for that. Lastly, we have icon art. As all of you know, I'm sure you have a deep respect for this area and appreciation for it, and it's also highly visible. So there's an opportunity to do something here that creates something really impactful and a lot larger, especially with the budget that we're talking about, that we might not normally get in another scenario. And again, the icon art might possibly be located along the roundabouts as well in important intersection areas. So we have another ranking activity. This is easiest if on your phone, you go back to Mentimeter, pull it up. You select the order, you get them up there and close to the order that you want them, and then you can up-down arrow to the correct location. That's how I'd recommend doing it.
And this one also has a duplicate back here too.
Yep.
So understand this one takes a little more time in your effort. If you just don't feel like it, that's okay. We have it here in the back as well. So just a fun way to kind of gauge some early feedback on this.
I do believe it also lets you, if you only want to do your top 3, I do believe it lets you submit that as well, instead of doing all 8. We've got some reminder images to the left. Oh, great. Someone got it. Okay, yeah, so I think they were able to only do 4. You can do however many you want. Nice.
It's like a horse race.
I'll probably wait till it gets to about 20-something. I know this one's harder to answer. And this one is repeated on the online survey as well. So you actually have 3 places to answer this if you want. Yes. Cool. Okay, 33, that's pretty good. And I'm going to hand it back over to Eric.
We're getting close to wrapping up here. I just put this back up so we can kind of engage the timeline, again, where we're at tonight going forward. We do have, this is going to be our opportunity to take any questions. I'll open up the questions here, but I'd like to field some from the audience. One of the things I do want to mention, that there's a city public website, SurfersPoint, on the top here, but also this QR code here tonight, and we'll have some, do we have some handouts? We have some handouts tonight that will link you or provide you a link to the survey that is live, that is, again, it's a repeat. You guys get double the chance to fill out. So it's the same questions that you're facing here and tonight on the boards. We're going to take all of the engagement and pull all the results. So even the polling that we just did and what we get on the boards all kind of count to the same stuff so that we can really kind of gauge. Our goal out of this is to kind of, as I like to explain, is to build the box that a public art RFP has to live within. So if we're going to tell, for example, if we get all the feedback that we want decorative crosswalks, and there's some more questions that we hopefully will get kind of what kind of art you guys like. The point of this is to find the box that goes in the RFP that the artists then have to kind of live in and propose, and every artist is going to break out of it. That's what artists do. But you still have to define a box, and things in that box will be like maintenance. We want to make sure this thing is, very, very easy to maintain, lasts long, durability, maintenance durability, but also things that we hear from you about what's kind of art, what's important to you, what should this art represent, those sorts of things will filter into that RFP. So that ultimately, when it will be the Public Art Commission will be a selecting body for art on here, they will have a rubric to gauge that art against, and know that that rubric was developed with your vision, the community's vision in mind. That it isn't just some random set of circumstances as to why an artist is being selected. That makes some sense. So with that, I'd love to open it up to any questions from here. I will. Oh.
So this original part of the project was in 2014. We're in 2024 now. And we've lived with this thing falling apart now for 10 years, basically. And what sets this new plan apart from what I think is basically a failure of the phase 1 project, because there was no maintenance in this project for 10 years. And so how is this going to differ? And we're going to go spend maybe $300,000 on making some real beautiful stuff. What's going to assure this stuff is not all going to fall into the ocean in the next 5 years? And then we're going to have to sit around for another 10 years to get another $16 million grant? Where's the money going to be to keep this thing looking nice for the next 10 years?
Those are good questions, and I can tell you that I can't answer all of them. What I can answer is that in the public art scope of this project, that durability, maintenance, longevity will be. I think we all need to grapple with what this place will be, maybe not 5 years. I hope it doesn't fall into the ocean in 5 years. But what 50 to 100 years looks like at SurfersPoint, that's not within the realm of imagination, that a lot of things are going to change. I will say that, as a resident myself, the durability of the materials that are out there now from bare infrastructure now have done fairly well for being 10 years old. There are pieces that haven't, I will say, but as Joe mentioned earlier, the coastal resilience bones of that project are a national standard. That part has performed exceptionally well, and that this is carrying on that infrastructure. Things that get built have a lifespan. The harder they get used, they have a lifespan. One of the benefits, or one of the problems here, is it gets used so much, right? You get loved to death, and that's hard on infrastructure. But concrete is the most durable material we have. And so, yeah, I guess that's my broad way of kind of answering your question. There are no guarantees.
Eric, if I may?
Yeah.
Just put out hi, and I did introduce myself earlier. I explained some of the project managers for the city.
Sure.
The entire concept behind this project is living shoreline, and the intent behind that is that it will be as low maintenance as possible, at least along the coast. Now, what will be done along the multi-use path, we do have a 5 to 7 years maintenance obligation along the coastline to make sure that those resources are maintained well. Beyond that, I can't speak to that, besides to state that the fairgrounds and the city both regularly mobilize to make sure that this infrastructure is maintained well. But the coastal infrastructure itself, the entire project is intended to ensure that it's as low maintenance as possible. As local erosion happens in seasonal tidal events, the whole idea behind the project is some of that sand will be removed, the cobble will be maintained there, and you won't see the issue of the multi-use path falling into the ocean or the asphalt failing in the future. That's the whole purpose. It's been very successful for the phase 1 project, and we fully anticipate it'll be just as successful for phase 2.
Thanks, Cody. He could answer more of the question than I could.
Okay, I love the point. I walk there every day. It serves there all the time. I really like the tree rings, and I like the concept of a continuation of the palm trees. There's no shade out there, and that's a great place to put your board up against the ring or sit with friends. It's actually natural seating, and I know we're losing some, but set back far enough. I think it'd be a nice addition. Not as many necessarily, but a nice continuation of what I call the middle. The other thing is, what prevents the revetment rock from going to the pier and then all the way to Pier Pond after a large winter storm? there when it was very steep down in the cove. Almost, well, could hardly get out of the water. There was so much rock that got moved with the storm. So what's going to hold that in place?
Good comments. Again, I will have to, Cody, you want to field this one? There's a little more technicality in this one than I can answer specifically about rock shifting potential for, yeah. Yeah, Paul. Paul's our expert. I'll give you the mic. Yeah, I got it. Thanks.
Yeah, so first of all, to your question, you might be a little confused about the phase 1 and phase 2. What you're seeing with the parking lot collapsing right now, that was the original parking lot. That is the phase 2 that we're trying to address with this. This is the second half of the project that never got done. The top of the point, where all the sand dunes are now, is the managed retreat, and that's what we're trying to replicate on down, all the way down to the bathrooms. So it's that section there that will have cobble and dunes, and that will allow the beach to come and go, and it will come and go naturally.
Is there going to be any additional hardening of the city's portion that is from the bathrooms down to Figueroa? Because a lot of that is falling into the ocean now, and with it, you know, we're going to put in all this new stuff up towards the top, but what about the existing stuff that's down at the bottom and it's starting to fall apart? You know, that's looking bad now.
Yeah, no, that's a very good question, and that's something that we've been talking to the city about for quite some time. It needs to be addressed, but it's not part of this project. But I want to address the cobble issue. What happened before was there was a lot of cobble nourishment that was happening, and that was instead of dumping boulders and instead of building a revetment, there was cobble that was placed there. And that was actually placed directly on the active shoreline, right? That's where the waves move it. And it always got washed away and got washed down into the cove. The cobble that's going in with this is going to be on the back shore, and it's going to be buried under the dunes, so it'll be just like up at the top.
Further back out.
So, right, it's not going to be built out onto the shoreline as much. It's going to be, built back. And the idea with that is that when the shoreline does erode, it just erodes cobble and sand, and it's not eroding concrete and bike paths and cars and whatever else is there. Yeah. So ideally, you will not see as much cobble transport down there, but at the same time, when the river puts that out there, it all comes down the coast. You saw what happened this year. It's unbelievable how much cobble moves along that beach. Thank you.
I might have to come back. Will depend on the questions.
I have a question about the cobble, and is it contained cobble or is it loose cobble? And loose, okay. I was just in Australia and they use these large sandbags. Have we ever thought about that? I mean, it might be past tense, but I live at Faria and I know that these waves are taking this cobble and making it worse for the whole shoreline. I mean, if they're moving, it's moving more cobble, isn't it? Wouldn't it be good to put big sandbags there?
No,
Like
the cobble-
extra large?
The cobble is the river delta. Ventura River is putting all of that stuff out every time we get the flood, and that's what builds the point. The point is cobble. And so we want to allow that to be natural, come and go. That's a natural living shoreline. And the main point of this project is moving back far enough to allow those natural processes to happen without the impediment of having sandbag or boulders or concrete or anything in the way.
Thanks.
I'm Zach Plopper. I'm the Senior Environmental Director at Surfrider Foundation. I thought Paul was representing us just fine, so I didn't introduce myself before. I think we need like a coastal resilience kind of workshop where we can dive into some of this discussion a lot more thoroughly. So maybe that's something that we can work with the chapter to organize, because there's a lot of questions here kind of beyond the scope of what we're talking about today, but all really important. Well, my question is, I mean, this is such a great opportunity to interpret different issues to the public through this public art, whether it's adaptation, coastal resilience, Chumash culture, heritage, and context. I'm wondering how we're going to settle, or if, on certain themes that we can incorporate into the different public art. Because to me that makes kind of, whether it's iconic art or pavers, there's a lot of opportunity there to provide an educational touch point to the public. So I'd like to learn more about process around that.
It's a great question, and it's a teaser because that question is coming up. So you'll see the answer to that very shortly without me having to answer it directly. That's our last piece of engagement before we break out. So that's my answer to your question. Stay tuned. Any other questions?
Right, I'm wondering about the art that you showed. Is that it? Or is there more people putting suggestions?
Oh yeah, there's totally opportunities tonight to, we have some pens, write stuff down. I believe we have some write-ins in the survey as well to provide other options. This was trying to narrow it down a little bit, and also understanding that the project, the cupcake in that scenario is already built, permitted, that sort of stuff. So we took a lens at it of like, what kind of art opportunities are available that don't require redesign or reconstruction of the already permitted part of the project. And these are what we came up with. It's not to say that this is it by any means, but it is, I think, a good list of what can be done without re-engineering and going back through the whole process and minding that timeline that was up there to begin with. Does that answer your question? Okay.
So one thing that's changed in the past few years among the promenade is powered vehicles. And how much flexibility is there in the planning for like adjusting to make it pleasant for all users, given like how the feng shui of SurfersPoint is evolving? Kind of talking about e-bikes and other powered vehicles along the trail. I would say that's more of a programmatic enforcement piece. It doesn't negate the fact that we still need a trail, and this project's building the trail. So I can't answer the question about how it's, how electric vehicles or not electric vehicles, e-bikes or other sorts of things. Like enforcement as much as like changing, say cobblestones are very different from pavement with regards to how fast vehicles move.
I see.
How much of that is in the future planning versus already baked in?
More about the actual surface itself.
Turns and other things that are done to like just affect the dynamic.
Well, I will say this was designed with transportation. It's a straight shot, so there's no curves or anything in there, so there's no curve engineering designed into it. But I also say, I ride a bike all the time, that the surface matters a lot, even if it's not an e-bike, right? And I don't want to ride a bike on a rough surface. If you go around the corner on the point and ride up the Zelmar Rains Trail, oh, that is a gnarly ride for about a half a mile there, or walking barefoot or anything like this. That the concrete that's here now is going to be a nice surface going forward for walking and riding a bike. Again, there's not a lot of speed because you have to have certain widths to make that comfortable as well, which also promotes speed in some ways, right? Yeah, it is fixed at this point. Yeah. I think it's, interesting. I've not seen speed bumps on a multi-use path to this point, but it is an interesting consideration. It's not within the scope of what we're talking about tonight, but I think one of the things I also wanted to mention here is there's other folks in the room tonight that can help answer some of these questions, even if they're not in the scope. So I wanted to mention, I know Bill's going to raise his hand up there because I'm going to call him out. City manager, he's made it's a very important project for the city. City manager is here tonight, as well as members of the comms team through Heather, and Jen's in the room too. So if you have more questions, we want to make sure we hear back from you. I can't address speed bumps being added to the project at this point, so. Okay. We're going to go through some of these. I can answer this right now. Again, can a skate park be added to the project? At this point, no. The project is permitted already through. There is a new skate park coming to Ventura, hopefully starting construction in a few months. The West Park Skate Park project is in its permitting stage right now. It's actually not too far from SurfersPoint, as the crow flies, about a half mile over at the end of Park Row. When will construction start? This fall. Has to be done in the spring. Has the cost of parking been discussed? I know it has. Cody, you want to answer this one?
First, thank you for the landmine. It was discussed, and that was all worked through with through our coastal development permit with the Coastal Commission. We work hand in glove with them to discuss these kinds of matters. But I'm also not the parking person for the city, so if you have specific questions about parking, reach out to our parking and transportation team. Fairgrounds for the new parking lot.
Have you considered adding showers for the surfers and swimmers to use and rinse off with? Again, the programmatic part of this, the showers aren't actually too far from the east end of this part, the showers that are there now. This project will not contain any showers at this point. How much parking will be gained or lost? I don't have a parking count, but I know it's more, like there is considerable amount of parking that's there. I don't think there is parking loss, or it's equal-ish. It's improved, and it is improved condition, yeah. What date does the current parking shut down? So with construction starting in the fall, it will be fenced off when construction starts, so expect fall. How much will a parking pass cost? Again, I think Cody addressed that question. Well, other than tonight is not the forum to ask the question about the parking, and it can be answered. It's just I can't answer it for you. Are there improved solutions to keep bluffs from dogs, homeless, camping, and general foot traffic? Another landmine question. The project has public amenities and solutions that will be used by the public. It's really a difficult. If you want to talk about that one, I would say come to me afterwards, and I can talk with you more specifically about that one. There's a lot there. We talked about showers. This project is a very limited scope and location. We talked a little bit about slow e-bikes and bikes.
I will add to this, if you have an idea that could feed into public art to also incorporate slowing e-bikes and bikes, we definitely would like to hear it. So this is a great example of something that can work with the scope as it's defined, and could potentially do this as well.
So I think I know who asked this one. He's here. Will the rebar currently and dangerously sticking out of the concrete blocks in the beach cove up to the point be taken care of? I think the answer is the scope of this project is what it is, and it will clean up what it can in the section that it is cleaning up. As far as other areas of the promenade, it's going to have to be addressed in a separate project, but your concerns are noted. Can the bike path be separated from the walking path? The bike path, I believe, is 12 feet wide in this, so it's ample enough room from a bicycle path, and we very rarely see in public circumstances enough room in public spaces to have separated bike facilities. We already have separate roads and separate parking facilities. To create separate pedestrian, bicycle, and roads and separate all that traffic takes a lot of space that we don't have, especially when we're trying to pull away from the ocean. Would the team consider asking an artist to use plastic trash collector from the Ventura beaches be useful to create an iconic art piece? Yes. The answer is, if you've been down there recently, there is, what is the name of the sea creature, sea monster that's down there now is crafted all out of the palm fronds that's right there at the beach entrance. And I think that is such an amazing use of reclaimed materials, something that can totally be incorporated into public art. We were even talking about the opportunity to maybe even have like a temporary art facility using natural materials. Might be a really unique opportunity to showcase some different art that could be totally temporary, and that is completely open. So the answer is yes. Can we spend $300,000 on amenities, showers, toilets with an artistic touch? Because of the infrastructure that's involved with showers and toilets, the answer is no. And the grant is very specific that it has to be public art. And public art has certain parameters. It is kind of vague, but it's also specific in some ways. Essentially, it has to go through a public art process that has to be procured. The artist will be selected. We're trying to define that process and that boundary box of what that artist can work within. Showers, toilets. I have seen artistically done showers and toilets. They do exist. It won't be in this project. Can we have an artistic surfer theme highlighting past and present men Yes, this is 100% something that can happen, and I encourage you in the next exercise to try and represent that idea, and in the survey, yes. How are you going to get from the small shoreline of 2022 to a big one in 2025? I see. That was talking about the images. Those are just the aerials that were there now. It was showing the big one is where we're pulling away, and that's where all the beach restoration is happening. So that is this project. We are creating that space in between the physical infrastructure by demoing everything that's there now and rehabilitating that's there now. So that's creating that space between the shoreline and the infrastructure. Will there be beach access parking? Where will the beach access parking be during construction? I'm not sure about construction phasing. Cody?
Again, one of the conditions of our coastal development permit is ensuring that we maintain public access both to vehicles and pedestrians during the construction phase. So different phases of the project will be closed at different times. We'll make sure to communicate that to the general public as well. As we get a little closer to construction, we have to work with our contractor closely to make sure that that happens in the way that we want it to. But we will be reaching out and making sure that the general public is is aware of that information as we get a little closer to construction.
Will this impact the fairgrounds? So this is one of the reasons the schedule is set the way it is this is set to start after the fair. So when the fair's primary business and busy time is done, so the limited impacts to the fairgrounds will be. Because of where it's being constructed, the north entrances to the fairgrounds at certain times may be closed or whatever, but the main public's access to the fairgrounds, the one we all use tonight to get here, will still be open.
And I just want to add that the Fair Board has been an integral process to this whole, process for years. So they've been involved in the whole process, and hopefully, even after construction is done, everything will work just as good as it does now, if not better.
Are the crosswalk accessing the fairgrounds? Why the crosswalks? They're actually in places to get across the parking lot. They're striped at key intersections across the parking lot because parking's happening on both sides. So there's crosswalks at key pieces to get across. But they're not used. Yeah, if the fence and gate were open into the fairgrounds and you could go through, if it wasn't closed, yes, you could use the crosswalk to access the fairgrounds if that was an entry point. But it isn't. It most likely won't be. There will be handicap, like curb ramps at all the crosswalks. They have to be fully ADA compliant so that a person needing those improvements can use them at the crosswalk improvements. There's also accessible parking in the parking lot as required. With the ground plane options on sidewalks, will there be measures to ensure whatever's chosen will be accessible to those with other walkers, cones, or wheelchairs? Yes. Those will have to meet strict ADA standards, however that implementation standards. It's usually about 1/4 inch is about as much vertical relief as you can ever get, so it is very small, and we'll take a close look at durability if that's the option that's selected as well. Has a playground been considered? Not at this location and not as a part of this project. This is a coastal resilience project. Will the path be resurfaced all the way up to Main Street? You're talking around the corner. I will say that stretch is tricky. It won't be a part of this project. The answer is no. But I will say the city has looked into getting funds and redeveloping that portion. However, that is on a levee that is governed by the Army Corps of Engineers. And right now they're working on plans to raise that levee. And until that levee is raised, the bike path is going to be hard to reconstruct for a while. So we're a little bit at the whim of the Army Corps on that one. The point side, west side of the project also needs a bike rack. And that's true. We can also add improvements to the existing. Things like the amenities, bikes, trash cans, those sort of stuff. This grant can help pay for some of those amenities. If we need more bike racks, more trash cans, more whatever in certain locations, we can add them. What about the periodic access from the lot? There's only one now, compliments of an artist that lives in his van. I'm not sure I understand the question.
Access from the parking lot to the beach.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This is where it's fenced off, and there's a place to get down right now.
Oh. I see. So access to the beach will be improved with this project. There will be more than one location to get to the beach. There are several, I mean, and I highly encourage it. It's really small here. We have a much bigger plan in the back. You'll see these little strips that are there now. Those are the coastal access points that are trying to protect the dunes in between them as well. But there are, I think, 4 or 5 of them. I can't remember exactly how many in between the dunes, which is a lot better than the one that's there now. So yes, there will still be beach access from the parking. What time will parking close? We talked about that one. I think we have an answer this fall. Has the cost of long-term... Oh, time of day. That's a good question. I'm not sure. I think, again, parking questions are a more nuanced question that I encourage follow-up questions with the right people, with the city, yeah. Has the cost of long-term maintenance been factored in? Cody kind of addressed this, that there is a plan to maintain for six years, is that what you said? 5 to 7? 5 to 7 years. Okay.
For both the coastal infrastructure, as far as
Yeah.
the actual shoreline and the multi-use. Beyond that, it'll be fairgrounds primarily, but also partially a city maintenance obligation.
Thank you for that. So if you heard 5 to 7 years as a part of the grant, beyond that, it'll be obligation of the fairgrounds and a partnership with the city. And what I will say about that is that long-term maintenance of projects like this is a desperately needed thing, but it is not an easily funded thing. And it's true. It's very easy. We help write a lot of grants. It's very easy. I shouldn't say easy. It's never easy. But it is easier to get money to improve projects than it is to maintain them.
I just want to clarify, because you misspoke just a tiny
Okay.
bit, but the grant requires 20 years.
20 years, okay. So there's a commitment to maintain for 20 years. Thank you. Thank you for clearing that. With a plastic art piece is created, can it be educational about plastic? Yes, 100%. Education is a huge part of this.
We actually have, in the in-person voting in the back, we have an opportunity for you to vote for educational signage, and this could work really well with that too. It's not something we talked about here, but educational signage or signage of any kind can definitely be incorporated with the art.
How many more do we have? So another parking question. Yes, so if crosswalk art is what everyone gets around, and that seems to be the art that everyone's going with, I want to bear that in mind. It's like not every art that we talked about. We want to hear from you what your favorite type of art is, and that will likely be. It could be multiples also. $300,000, that can pay for some crosswalks. It could pay for a couple different things. So depending on what everybody likes, we might be able to do 2 or 3 of those things. But if everyone loves the icon, for example, that's probably where the money's going. So just know that it's going to depend on you helping us decide what that is and what that looks like. Yes, if that's the thing, steelhead, it can totally be in there. Yep, parking. If I see parking, I'm just going to. Have surfboard racks been considered? Great idea. I want to see that on a Post-it sticker tonight for, I mean, bike racks great, but we need surf racks, right? So. Public and I would like to try to keep in mind functional art that is, I'm guessing that's art, that is beneficial to nature, environment, young children, the elderly folks. Thank you for the note. Are we going back through? Okay. Okay, I think if we didn't answer your question, please come find me. I'm happy to try to, if I can't answer it, I will try to get you in touch with the right person who can. Again, I don't know about parking, so if you have questions about parking, I can already tell you I'm not the right person. But this is our last exercise here, and this is one of the most important tonight. We wanted to do it last because we want to give you as much time to provide feedback. This is open-ended. You can type in as many different things as you want in here, but this is exactly this is the tease that Zach helped me create earlier. What do you think the unifying concept should be? What should this art be about? It could be parking. It could be parking. If you wanted an artist to make a statement about parking, you could probably get an artist to do it.
Just to add real quick, and Eric's earlier comment that this is not smart AI, complete sentences are not ideal. So just even ands, you don't even need ands. It'll respond best if you just do single words or as like concise of a thought as you can. And again, if you see something up here that you really resonate with, I think we gave you all unlimited answers. So just copy what they said, and the text will get bigger the more that people vote on it.
And we're going to leave this up. We're going to leave this up for the rest of the evening. So if you don't want to do it right now, you can come back to it. The code at the top, if you ever need to get back in, you can still get to it. So we'll leave it open. And with that, as people are finishing, we want to start inviting people to the back of the room at your own leisure. Participate in the actual manual. We're going to give out some dots and talk to you at the boards back here. Your other opportunity to provide. There's some more interesting questions that we're asking back here that we couldn't ask in this forum. So we wanted to do this as a way to kind of keep you engaged during this presentation. I hope it worked. Yeah.
Thank you all.
Us talking to you for 45 minutes. Hope this was a little funner than that.
Good job.
Thank you.